TRP Nation, what's good? Today is a monumental day. We are here at the headquarters of Philadelphia Soccer 2026 with two of the most important players, no pun intended, in their organizational structure who have worked tirelessly to illuminate the city of Philadelphia and ensure that it was selected as one of the global hosts for this magnanimous competition we got coming up next year. We've come together to discuss all things FIFA World Cup 2026 as we celebrate the 250th anniversary of our amazing city in this beautiful game that has united the world. We're joined by host city executive and CEO of Philly Soccer, Meg Kane, whose track record in business, tourism, event strategy, and hospitality has made her the ideal candidate for this unique leadership position. Since joining the effort in 2019, Meg has served as a liaison between the city, key partners and venues, and FIFA, focusing on the development of the city's narrative case for hosting and delivering all technical responses. Now, as host city executive and CEO, Meg leads the operationalization of local organizing committee, which is responsible for ensuring the successful hosting the Philadelphia 6 World Cup matches, running a 40-day FANFEST. That's crazy. And welcoming more than 500,000 visitors to Philadelphia in the summer of 2026. Philadelphia Soccer's Director of Social Impact, Jonathan Todd, is a man of many talents and abilities. Much of his personal career has centered around creating change, opportunities, and upward mobility for those most qualified who may have been traditionally overlooked, and leading social initiatives that have directly impacted communities that these organizations serve. True to those words, his past experiences include Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for Rivers Casino and the Philadelphia International Airport, and Director of Talent Development for the City of Philadelphia. Today's episode marks the official kickoff on the road to FIFA World Cup 2026, landing in the city of Philadelphia. Meg and Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us today and entrusting us to help lead the charge and help spread the word, for Philly soccer and the World Cup taking place next summer. Why did you feel, I think probably the best way to start is probably asking you a very general question. Why did you feel that it was important to not only talk to like legacy media outlets, but also more like grassroots alternative media, like, what me, Matt, and Dan represent with TRPE as far as getting the word out?
Sure. Well, first off, thanks for coming, and thanks for coming to our office.
Absolutely.
This is Thank you very much. I will say we inherited this, so we are grateful to our friends at Independence Blue Cross who allowed us to FIFA-ize and Soccer-ize this office. And to use this store as our headquarters. We're thrilled. But really excited to have you guys here.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And, for us, the World Cup is the biggest sporting event in the world.
Absolutely.
Right. And I think when you think of Philadelphia, and I've been part of this since 2019.
Yeah.
One of the things that FIFA, I think, appreciated about Philadelphia, and one of the things that we really highlighted in our bid was how diverse the city is, right? And that we, for our whole heritage, we're a city of immigrants, right? Dating all the way back to, the mid 1800s coming forward. And that while that immigration population has evolved, right, it has led to this incredible diversity that makes Philadelphia so special and unique. And especially because I think we really lean into our heritage. We really lean into,
without a doubt,
all the things that make us different. Right. And I think that's a really important part. So while legacy media is obviously an important aspect of this, we also know that there are soccer fans all across the city and across the region.
Yeah.
We know there are neighborhoods, from west to, Northeast Philly, in South Philly. There's so many enclaves of different soccer fans. And it's not just, it's national fandom. It's certain players, right? It's Premier League. It might be, any of the number of teams like that, Bundesliga, all of it. So as we think about, getting the word out, for us, this is equally as important as legacy media, because we want to be talking to the people who are most excited about FIFA World Cup coming.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
And I'll add this, and first and foremost, I am a fan of TRPE, so I had a little bit of insight into not only the impact and success of your platform, but just the reach and having fellow peers and friends that also enjoy your podcast. In today's day and age, people consume media in a variety of different ways, and so podcasts, I think, are more popular than ever. And so I know I listened to a podcast on the way, and I saw you just posted a new one. I look forward to listening to that one.
That's the way home.
That's right. That's correct. But whether it's politics, lifestyle, music, entertainment, etc., this is one of the most impactful ways that we can get the word out about all the amazing things that are happening leading up to and during the games next summer. And so in addition to your podcast, we're also engaging with a number of other organizations, media partners throughout the city that will be sure to maximize our, contact and just awareness and excitement about all the amazing things that are going to be happening.
Right.
It's just a
Man,
tremendous
I'm looking forward to seeing the whole everything unfold.
So are we.
Over the next year plus. In the intro, I briefly touched on some of both of your backgrounds, but talk to us about some of the specific, career choices and experiences you've had that you feel have made both of you equally prepared for the different roles that you serve within Philly soccer.
Well, Jonathan and I actually met working on a major event for Philadelphia. We both worked on the Papal visit, right? When Pope Francis came here 10 years ago.
timely topic.
Right, timely topic. And I think, I was just talking to Prima Gupta over at the Center City District this morning. We were doing a call about something, and I referenced the Papal visit and how, 10 years on, there's such a warm memory of that event. Although living through it at the time, there was a lot of, are we ready? Is this going to, is it going to be, what's it going to be like? And there was a lot of, challenges in terms of that. And, I think that when I think of the Papal visit now, and even the reflection of it this past week,
Of course.
it's just been such a great way for people to think, wow, Philadelphia really stepped up to the moment.
Yeah.
And I think that when I look at my career, you realize that the Papal visit with the DNC, the NFL draft, all of those big events really led us to be able to win our bid to host FIFA World Cup.
Yeah.
And all of those events, as different as they are,
yeah, for sure.
right? They helped us, create the story of Philadelphia as a global host. And for me, I think that's what's so cool in thinking about this in 10 years on from my work on the Papal visit and when we met you, when you were working for Mayor Nutter to now, and to see that we're right on the precipice as a city,
Right.
To really, I think, take it to the next level in terms of what we can do from a hosting standpoint, from how we can draw people in, people coming to Philadelphia and understanding just how, I don't want it to be a hidden gem anymore.
It's funny you say that because I was having a conversation with one of my friends and he was like, the World Cup seems like such a big thing. And it's like, seems like it's almost like a little too big for Philly. And I'm like, nah, Philly has had major events. Like you just mentioned the DNC, or you look at like Made in America. Like we're built to have these things and we need to have these things. So it's like, yeah, that makes total sense.
And every time we've been tasked with hosting something, the city has collectively stepped up to the plate.
We knocked it out the
block every single time.
And I think that's what gave us confidence, right?
Absolutely.
Like when you have to go through a bid that takes about 5 years, right? And we did our bid through the COVID pandemic, right? So, and I always tell people that was the hardest part. Not that we, obviously, a global pandemic, not ideal in any way, shape, or form, but certainly not ideal for Philadelphia, which really, in terms of introducing itself to people, like benefits from people being here, right? Physically coming to the city, seeing it. We're like the biggest surprise and delight, right? So it's one of those things that I think about all that we had to do to kind of bring FIFA and get them to understand like who we were without the benefit of them being able to kind of feel and touch and be part of it. And so, multiple times, we only had a 12-hour window to be able to kind of make the sales pitch.
Right.
We took advantage of it for sure.
Yeah.
But I do think that, to your point, like having done all of those big events and being able to continually point to that was critically important.
Yeah, I think at times us being Philadelphians, we don't realize what Philly is. And especially the view from the world.
Right.
Like when you go other places, like, you were Barcelona or me going to Dubai or going to Tokyo, and you get to these places and they're like, you from Philly?
Yeah.
Like they're blown away by you being from Philly because, we have a rich history here. The Independence Hall, Rocky, all these different things. And I used to drive the bus for SEPTA. And I remember it used to blow my mind the amount of tourists that would get on the bus and ask to go here, ask how to get it. And I'd be like, because I'm here every day.
It's kind of take it for granted.
Yeah, you take it for granted that just how much history and how rich the city really is. So it's dope to see things like this actually, put it on the forefront for the world.
Yeah.
No question. I grew up in Silver Spring, Maryland. I was born in Washington, D.C. and grew up in a suburb outside of the district. And so we're talking about, at any given day, multiple streets being shut down, temporary inconveniences for residents and, people going to and from work. But that is the cost of doing big business.
Yeah.
And when you have dignitaries and, worldwide figures coming in and out of a city, it's a reasonable trade, all things considered, because what's coming with that, and I'm sure we'll get into the numbers about the projected economic impact, but, Meg mentioned it, we go back to the Pope days, and a big hurdle that we had to get over was admittedly the local, skepticism about temporary inconveniences related to the visit. The center city was shut down for about 48 hours.
48 hours, yeah.
Yeah,
48
I was out there in it.
Yeah, and I mean, first and foremost, it was really cool to be able to ride an Indigo bike down Market Street.
Totally.
I had Chuck Ramsey pull up to the former police commissioner and say, "Hey, man, slow down a little bit." Like, those type of moments will live in my head forever. But I think it also illuminated the appeal of having more flexibility within our streets. But also, just, this is something to be inspired and excited about. And it's not necessarily the time to, like, retreat to the shore or, go find somewhere else to be. It's time to embrace and immerse yourself in just so many incredible elements of the FIFA experience, in addition to all the other things that you mentioned earlier on, Chad and Matt. Like, in addition to the games, it's a 250-year anniversary. We were going to have our culminating game on July 4th.
That's crazy.
I can't imagine a more, the Pope.
Thought so too.
Yeah.
At first, I got to be honest.
But it's it'll be unprecedented in the best way possible, and so we want, whether it's in official capacity or after having this conversation, tell a friend, tell a family member, like, this is the time to be in Philly.
Totally.
We'll also talk a little bit about FanFest later, but I mean, even if you don't have a ticket to the game, there are so many different ways to enjoy the experience.
Yeah.
And so, we're running back to the original question. Like, I feel this is a full circle moment for both of us, in our career trajectories, and in my world, just leaning into underrepresented, populations in under-resourced neighborhoods. It's also a beautiful opportunity to activate, encourage attendance, participation, engagement, to make sure from the far northeast to the deep southwest and everywhere in between that everyone feels a part of all the amazing things that are happening. And so, excited to really embark on some great programs and initiatives.
Yeah, I think there's a really cool tie that binds you two with the 10-year kind of coming back together and everything like that. And it just speaks to the power of, you see the same people coming up, you see on the way down, and vice versa, and just nurturing those relationships, because you may end up needing to leverage them, later. And then now you're coming back together again to do another monumental first for Philadelphia on the same team together.
It's really cool. I mean, I can't imagine doing this without Jonathan. And we had some really cool experiences together during the planning for the Papal visit and obviously during the event itself. But I think that, the other part of this too, and I think it goes back to our experience during the Papal visit and now where we are today. This is a real moment, I think, for pride, for people to lean into being proud of being from Philadelphia, living here.
Absolutely.
To your point, I think we take for granted sometimes things that we have. I think sometimes we're our harshest critic as a city.
Oh, yeah.
Right? We'll be the first one to tell you what's wrong and why it won't work. And right. But at the same time, like, we beat out all of these other U.S. cities.
Yes.
We are standing toe to toe with New York and Boston and Miami and Atlanta
and San Fran and Houston.
Yeah. And that should give us a little pride.
Yeah.
We should feel really good about that. And I think, to your point, the world and FIFA saw something in Philadelphia where they said we have to have matches here. Right? Like, how cool is that?
Yeah.
And I think that for us, when we look back at the visit of Pope Francis, it's one of those ideas that, Pope Francis and the Vatican picked Philadelphia. We didn't RFP for the Papal visit.
Right.
I mean, we weren't like, you know what? This sounds like a great idea. It was like, I'm coming. And you go, thank you. All right. That's how that rolls. Like,
just so y'all know, I'm pulling up on these.
Yeah, these are my gates. I'll be there.
You don't just call the folk, yo, man, pull up on us one time.
Exactly.
You get that fiat charged up real quick.
What are you doing in late September? You busy? But it's, he tells you. And I think that's where, like, but when you think about, like, that moment, it was so, at the beginning of his papacy, he was such a different leader for, the church. And it was at a time of turmoil, right? Especially for the Catholic Church in the United States, for him to say, I'm coming to Philadelphia, and for 1 million people
Yeah.
to come out on the Benjamin Franklin Parkway for 2 straight days.
Yeah.
You know, and I said, Philadelphia is one of the only places where I've ever seen people crowd surf babies up to, like, you know, and no questions asked, just like, we got it, and crowd surf the baby back.
Right.
Right. And like, there's something really magical about that. And so when I think of the magic of what happened those 2 days, I feel like FIFA, not to compare, you know, them, but I feel like FIFA is going to have so many of those magical moments.
Absolutely.
To that point, FIFA World Cup is like, it's like playoff baseball. Yeah. It's like the Super Bowl of like where you might not be a every Sunday football fan, but Super Bowl Sunday, you got the helmet with the 2 beers, like, and that's kind of it's crazy because I don't watch soccer day to day, you know, but like the last World Cup, I remember it specifically because I got married on December 16th. The final was the 18th, and we were staying at the. You remember we had all the dinner and we were staying at the Ritz, and her mom was there, and they were trying to get ready to go do lunch. I'm like, man, Mbappe just tied it up. It's 3-3. They go into penalty kick. Like that's how you get when World Cup come around. So to your point, I think that us as Philadelphians, we do have to come out of our shell and immerse ourselves in what's happening when it does happen. It's like NFL draft weekend. Like you might not be at the stage for the draft, but there are so many events and so many things going on around it. So I think that's something we as Philadelphians, we struggle with at times where, you know, this is in the way, it's not going to work, and my street is blocked off. And it's like, you just got to, for that week, let it go and have fun and enjoy yourself. Yeah, just fully lean into it.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Temporary inconveniences for long-term benefit.
Right.
Totally.
And it all adds to the legacy and the story of the city.
Absolutely.
Long-term legacy. That's a much better way to put it.
Yeah.
But I always say to people when they ask, like, we get a lot of questions around the post-2026, right? Like, we've been talking about 2026 for like 15 years at this point. Like, what happens after 26? Like, well, it's 27. And so that's, and that's important. But, you know, we often get asked, like, what do you want the headline to be? Like, what do you want the takeaway? And for me, I always say, I want the headline to be what's next, right? Like, we should use this to push the city forward, right? And that doesn't mean, you know, it could be in big events, but it could also be in, let's make a concerted effort to get more small businesses to invest in Philadelphia to grow here. Let's you know, make sure that we're highlighting our eds and meds. Let's make sure that we're leaning into how diverse our business coalition is, right? I mean, we are a city that has, I mean, just great chambers of commerce, right? Without
some of the best in the country.
Absolutely. I mean, you've got with Regina and Kine and so many others, like, right? There's just so many different ways that we could take this. So the question is how do you leverage something that, like the FIFA World Cup, so that it's not just a one-time bump. Like, that's not why you do this, right? It's for everything that comes after, right? It's for all the things that it can make possible, right? And that kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, which is like, I just want Philadelphia, as much as I love our grittiness and that chip on our shoulder that we always carry, right? Because it's part of our story. It's part of who we are. I really do feel like this should be the moment where we can stop asking the question, like, are we enough? Are we good enough as a city? Like, we are. Yeah. We are. We're playing up, right? Like, and we have this opportunity to introduce Philadelphia and its neighborhoods and its sports fandom and all of the things that make us, like, just awesome to the whole world.
I'm almost just like sitting here thinking about all of the, you know, the frenzy and the passion around like the Eagles playoff run and through the Super Bowl and that unity. And then you add that with the passion and the craziness of like soccer fans. And you talk about 500,000 additional travelers or whatever coming to, you know, Philadelphia, and then the FANFEST and the actual matches and everything. And it's just like, this is a huge moment and opportunity for, you know, for Philadelphia on a global stage.
I was gonna say, Angela Val always talks about that week in between, like, winning the Super Bowl and the parade, right? Like, and it's just joyful.
Everybody loves everybody.
Everybody loves everybody. Saying hi to everybody on the street. Everything's go Birds, right? It's this moment. And what I have tried to, you know, help people to understand is that the World Cup is a really joyful event.
Yes.
Right? That it is this marrying of national pride, crazy sports fandom, and it really does have a joy to it and a heritage that I feel like Philadelphia is well equipped
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
not just manage, but
Yeah.
to welcome. And I think people are going to get it, right? When they see the fans, they're going to see a little bit of ourselves,
Without a
right?
doubt.
And I think that makes for a really cool cross-cultural exchange that I don't think people have realized is going to happen
Yeah.
so naturally, right? Like,
Yeah, once Philadelphians get out the house, they enjoy themselves.
that's-
They just have to
Well
get out
said.
there. They just have to get out there.
I need a T-shirt with that
Right.
That's the
hat
truth.
on it.
I remember, like you just said, with the Eagles run. Remember when the Phillies won the World Series?
Oh, man.
That was 08.
Yeah.
And I remember I came home, and the parade was Friday, and that carried into the weekend, and then Obama won on Tuesday.
That's right.
And the whole week, it was just mayhem. Just everywhere you
Bedlam.
went was just so fun and friendly. And it's just, yeah, we are equipped to do it. We need a reason to come outside.
Right.
Because once we out, we're going to have a ball. That's
Yeah.
the way we are. So, yeah.
And that's one of the beautiful things about sports too, is the way in which it unifies people
Oh,
and brings men together. I mean, I think Philly's a great example of that. When you walk into a bar for an Eagles game or a Sixers game, and people that may not necessarily cross paths otherwise are
Right.
slapping fives, engaging.
You ever been at the Sixers arena when the Nuggets when they missed 2 free throws? Oh my God!
Bricking for chicken.
Yeah. I'm talking about it's politicians, lawyers, everybody jumping in there.
I experienced that.
Yeah, that's real. That's one of the funnest things you could ever be a part of. Yeah. Now,
So true.
how many games do we have here? Is it 6?
We have 6 matches.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we open up on June 14th.
Right.
And for our first match, we have 5 group stage matches, and then we finish with a round of 16 knockout on July 4th. So we will really have like 3 weeks of game activity happening, because you have to also think about it in terms of not just the matches that we're hosting, but the U.S. men's national team will play. Right, like over the same course, and they're playing West Coast, right? So there's going to be like natural enthusiasm and excitement to kind of follow the home team. And then, I always say this, the way that they've structured this, because this tournament is way different than Qatar, way different than FIFA's ever done. You've got the 3 countries, 16 host cities.
Yeah.
But I think what really is cool about it is that they've increased the number of teams from 32 to 48.
Yeah, I saw that.
Right? Which then leads from 64 matches to 104 matches.
Oh, wow.
So that group stage, like that first 3 weeks, is going to feel like the NCAA tournament that first weekend, right? Everywhere you turn, there's going to be a soccer match on. There's no downtime. There's a match for the first 23 days of the tournament.
Right.
So when you think about just that consistency, I think there's going to be some really cool stories to come out of that, right?
And that was part of our thinking that went into FanFest taking place throughout the duration of the games, is because even if there's not a match happening in Philadelphia,
There's a match happening somewhere.
correct.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty cool. When you look at the map and how it's structured, it basically gives you the opportunity to where, for the most of the big cities, you can go to your home game or something that's relatively close, but you can also make a trip or a vacation out of somewhere you want to go and like I told you, I want to go to a game in Toronto.
Yeah.
Like, if you live in Los Angeles, you could say, oh yeah, no, we could go to San Fran. We could also go to Vancouver. We could also go to Guadalajara. It's like, it's dope the way they structured it with the 3 countries and the multiple cities.
Absolutely. And that's another appealing thing about Philadelphia and its location. We're really holding court in regard geographically.
Yeah.
So if you look south, the closest host city is Atlanta. If you look west, the closest host city is Kansas City. And then you have the finale taking place at MetLife.
Yeah.
And so there are a large amount of professional World Cup fans.
Mhm.
I mean that they're not coming here for a couple of days. They're coming here for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they're going to set up shop somewhere, and they're going to plan mini trips. They're going to, move around.
Yeah, mad Winnebago action. Yeah.
That's right. But I mean, we have such a unique position where you could easily, take a train or take rideshare or rent a car and go and probably get to MetLife faster from here than you would across New York City.
Oh,
right?
without a doubt.
And then there's also just the appeal of spending time and going to FanFest. And then you're having people from all around the world coming here. And so embracing all the rich history and culture that Philadelphia encompasses too.
Yeah.
And so again, like we are really in a sweet spot geographically as well, because,
And we're also hosting Major League Baseball All-Star game right after.
Right.
Right after we
Yeah,
finish hosting a
Busy
World
month
Cup.
for Philadelphia.
Very busy month, yes. But I think a really cool thing too, like if you are a fan of FIFA World Cup and you're in country for a couple weeks, like what a cool thing. Like the All-Star game has some real pageantry to it. It has a lot of, I think so many, the home run derby, the actual game. There's something about America's pastime, being able to introduce that in such a unique way in Philadelphia at the same time that we're hosting soccer fans. So, I mean, it's just, I think the opportunity is just, it's endless, right? And to that point, like Amtrak, it's going to play an enormous role.
Enormous.
You know, you've got Boston, New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia, and you've got people, when you talked about no host cities south of us until Atlanta, I mean, there's so many soccer fans living in the DMV where you're from.
Absolutely.
Right? Like they're looking for where they're going, and it's a lot easier to come north than it is to go south. Right? So I think that's where we're so excited to see which teams are coming. Right, in December of this year, because that is, I mean, obviously, everybody's like, oh, is Argentina coming? Like, I don't know. It's an actual draw, but there's some, I mean, just the idea of what nations and being able to kind of figure out like what fan bases are coming, what are their traditions, what neighborhoods are they going to want to go into and activate, right? How are they going to travel? How do they march to the stadium? All those things. Like, how cool. Like,
And I can imagine that, a lot of these players are just kind of want to explore and just find themselves wherever they find themselves. A few years ago when Bad Bunny did Made in America, he was just popping up like everywhere. And people like all of these like Bad Bunny sightings. And it's like, I almost would probably think it might even be that like even bigger with, in regards to some of the soccer players, where they might just end up at a random soccer field in South Philly or something like that and get like a pickup game going or something like that. And then the kids get to experience that. So there's going to be so much opportunity for just side quests and these other things that are going to be happening around the main matches and stuff like that.
90-second story about that. So I consider myself somewhat of a Made in America vet. Like we've gone a number of years since I moved back here in 2014, and that Bad Bunny performance was unparalleled. I mean, you've seen people come to the shows and see the headliners. People were lined up at noon to get into the fair space just to run all the way up to the front of the main stage, so they could have good positioning
for him at 9:30, 10 o'clock.
Exactly. And that just speaks to the impact of international music and flavor and just the worldwide buzz and appeal that comes with international stars. And that's, I think, a good parallel to what we're going to experience 2 summers from now, where the soccer equivalents of Bad Bunnies will be descending upon our city as well as others. And so you're going to get that enhanced experience across the board, just because people are so inspired and enjoy the talent that everybody's bringing to the table. So
and that's actually part of the FanFest, right? That's part of our FanFest story, right? Because yes, there's the watch party aspect of it, right? The big screen TV, which is awesome, but we're also looking at really bringing in great entertainment to be part of that, and
it's going to be amazing,
which is really a cool opportunity that and Philadelphia is big enough to be able to activate at our FIFA Fan Festival, the July 4th event on the Parkway. That's going to happen, right? They're still going to have that huge concert.
Yeah, I was wondering if there was like a conflict. So now we have both of these things, happening at the same time, man.
But Philadelphia can handle
without a doubt,
right? And like that's the part that we've all been at the table together for a long time, right? We didn't go into this saying like we're hosting FIFA World Cup and we're just going to focus on hosting FIFA World Cup. Everything else be damned. Right? We had to look at ourselves in terms of like, all right, how do we fit into this ecosystem? Because Welcome America is going to happen again.
That's a legacy event.
It's 35 years. Like it happened for the last 35 years. It's going to happen for the next 35. Right. So like, how does that work? And how do we make sure that like we're dovetailing appropriately with MLB and that they feel that they're having their moment too? And how does FIFA kind of sit in the middle of all of this as kind of the biggest event, right? But that's all part of the work that goes into it. And the person that has honestly done the most for us and getting everybody to get at a table is Giselle Jones from the city.
Indeed.
Who's the city representative and the head of special events for literally the last 30 years. There hasn't been a big event in the city that her fingerprints aren't on.
Right.
And she is unbelievable.
Quality future interview prospect. It's not already on the list.
You just put that on the radar.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Go ahead.
You said that the bids for the games are in December for the teams.
Draw. Yeah, the draw.
How does that process work?
So it is, our understanding is that it is truly like a lottery.
Like it's just randomized.
Yeah, it's a randomized lottery system. I mean, FIFA it says that there's three things that they don't control. They don't control the weather, they don't control who wins, and they don't control like the draw, right? Like that's just those are the three things. Everything else is in play.
Yeah, the weather wins the draws.
That's right. So it really does. It's a huge event. About 1 billion people tune in to watch it.
Yeah.
Because that's when a lot of people start to figure out where they're going, and when the secondary ticket market just heats up.
Yeah,
You're going to start seeing people who go and get tickets probably in fall of this year, and they're going to get tickets based on an undetermined match in Philadelphia,
Right.
or an undetermined match in Boston. But if all of a sudden their team draws a game in Philadelphia, it's going to be like, I'll be trading. They'll be looking for somebody to do a trade with, right?
A lot of bartering going on.
Remember our friend, shout out Jules, that's what I was telling you about, was in Qatar when the last World Cup, and when it happened, he got like 9 games up front, and then afterwards it was like, all right, I give you 2 France for 1 German. Like that's how it turned.
It totally is.
Everybody's trading tickets and trying to find out, I want to go to this place. So yeah, I can see that.
And I think that's going to happen a lot.
Oh yeah,
Totally.
Especially with these cities.
Yeah.
With all these, it's
the
going to
East
be
Coast plus Toronto.
Yeah.
Because I just think once people, especially international tourists, I think once they start to think about like where they're going to concentrate their time, and to the Qatar, your friend Jules would be able to speak to this, really well. That the feedback that everybody heard from Doha was like, oh my God, it was amazing to go to one city, to have one hotel room, and to like just be there, right?
Yeah.
And to be able to go to multiple games in a couple days span. Well, there's not a lot of places you're going to be able to do that except the East Coast, right? You got Vancouver, Seattle that can probably make that work.
Right.
But then you've got, you could be on Amtrak, Philadelphia to Boston.
You got LA and San Fran, that's close. But here where you got Philly, New York, Toronto, and Atlanta, you're not going to be able to. And then Miami.
You got Miami. I mean, you've got.
You're not going to be able to beat that 2-hour travel time to just get to 5 different arenas.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be a really cool part of this. And I think that experience is why the East Coast is going to be such an attractive destination for visitors, whether it's international or domestic, because they can really maximize the experience.
And another dope thing about FanFest, the reality is an estimated 70 to 75% of people coming to Philadelphia will not have a ticket to the World Cup. So FanFest is free of charge, open to the public, and it will just provide a come one, come all.
Elaborate on what is the FanFest?
And where's do we have a site yet?
Yes.
We do have a site. So it's located just north of Kelly Drive, and at Lemon Hill Park. And so, I'm sure you've been to a cookout there, reunion,
Get the tank out of the way. We have a good time up there.
In Fairmount. So that'll be the epicenter of all the fun and activity that's going to take.
Right off of Kelly Drive. I'm bringing the bike out. That's
going to be and easy because it is not going to be for drivers of vehicles. It is going to be for people on foot. There will be some sort of drop off location for ride shares, but we encourage people to come, make their way, and it will not be encumbered by vehicles or any of that. And it's going to be a central destination for all of
the traffic that's going to bring the Boathouse Row and the Parkway and that's a good spot.
It's going to be, we're excited about it because it also offers a cool opportunity for legacy, right? So we're working with the city really closely on putting in some really important infrastructure upgrades. If you've been up to Lemon Hill Park, there's no sidewalks, right? It's not ADA accessible, right? For an area, for a park that has 13 really great neighborhoods that surround it, being able to just put in that level of infrastructure automatically changes the way that park can be used.
Yeah, just from a quality of life aspect, just for the people that use it every day or frequently.
Exactly. And our hope is that by putting in some, working with the city around that type of infrastructure, right, that gets it ready for the fan festival, that afterwards, our goal is, and Jonathan's leading the effort with Melissa Piccoli in our office around, and the city, what's the long-term legacy components of that? How can we leave the park better than it is today? And that might be new gazebos, right, for all the graduation parties and cookouts and things that are happening. It could be, the city's already looking at it for a new playground. It could be new basketball courts, but we want the community's input on what that is, because far be it from Philadelphia Soccer 2026 to determine that. Really about what's best for the communities that surround it so that it gets the most use.
Community input is critical to this entire process. We actually have a meeting tomorrow with a number of local CDCs, neighborhood leaders and residents, just to make sure that their insight and input is received and can help guide and direct our decision making and prioritization, both short term and long term, to make sure that we leave it in a better place than it was when we arrived.
Yeah. Something I think that we briefly like touched on and we kind of just hopped into, you know, it's easy to just get right into like the throes of the games and all the celebration is kind of like the process of this even happening to begin with. Meg, as the most tenured, one of the more tenured members of Philly Soccer, could you kind of like walk us through some of the behind the scenes work you and the team have done in order to, you know, go from a bid to this is happening in, you know, in a year and some change?
Absolutely. So I started with Philadelphia Soccer 2026 in 2019.
Right.
But this bid actually started in 2017.
Oh, wow.
So the letter of intent by the city was signed 2 days after the NFL draft was here. So to give you a sense of that, the Eagles had not yet won a Super Bowl, and now we have 2 Lombardi trophies, right? So when you think of that timing,
life moves fast.
Life comes at you fast. That's right. So so that bid started with the City of Philadelphia and the Philadelphia Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Yeah.
They have a division, you may know this, called PHL Sports.
Right.
So all the sporting events kind of come through that, and that's how they bid. So when I came in 2019 with another consultant named Allison Grove, we were there to just help shepherd the bid in what was supposed to be the last 9 months of it. This was going to be the intense part where all of the U.S. host cities were competing against each other. There were 17 cities remaining for 10 spots. And so we came in, and David L. Cohen of Comcast was our first chairman. And we came in to sort of play this liaison role between David Cohen and the CVB in the city and to help get ready for this bid. And the first 2 months were amazing. We were like working on a brand. We were getting ready for this huge event. We were going to host Premier League Mornings Live. We were getting ready for this massive event at Dilworth Park. And then COVID hit.
Right.
And we didn't hear anything for 3 months.
Wow.
Right. So all of a sudden it was like, is there a bid still going on? Right? Like, what's going to happen? The city certainly wasn't thinking about 2026. They were thinking about like what was happening in the next 26 hours.
Right.
Right. And the Convention and Visitors Bureau, with tourism and hospitality was decimated. Right. So all of a sudden, the infrastructure that we had in place to really support the bid we had to pivot.
Right.
And so that's how Philly Soccer started, because David was like, look, typically we wait to win a bid, and then we operationalize. We established a 501c3 nonprofit, and it was like, we're going to do this. We got to go now. Yep. So in June of 20, right, like in the heat of COVID, that's when we established Philadelphia Soccer 2026, so that we'd have a place that would allow the bid to keep moving, even if the city and the CVB couldn't devote their full attention to it. Right. So that was really critical. And then we worked with FIFA, and everything became virtual, which is really strange. It kind of goes back to what I was saying like earlier, like when you're Philadelphia and like being here and kind of touching and feeling and the vibe.
That's part of the sell.
Right. Right. Is the city.
Cheesesteaks.
Right. Like I guess, right. They don't fly well to Zurich, let me tell you. And thinking about that. So the next like year was really all these virtual meetings, and everything was on Zoom, and trying to explain like what was happening with the stadium and what we were going to need, like what kind of grass we needed, and all these elaborate PowerPoints, and uploading documents. I remember the Wednesday before Thanksgiving in 2020 that I sat with Angela Val in her basement at her house, right? And we were like socially distancing, like, but also like uploading like 400 documents to FIFA, because the deadline was Thursday, and we were like, Thanksgiving, right? Like, it was bizarre.
They're like, that means nothing.
That means not right.
Submit it by 11:59.
It was totally that. So, I mean, there was a lot of those things that were like,
The deadline is the deadline.
It's so funny because we talk about my friend in Doha. They don't know any of that over there. Like they don't. So it's like, yo, happy Thanksgiving. Oh yeah, it's next.
Black Friday. That sounds like a very unfortunate thing that happens somewhere.
So we're like,
that's hilarious. International don't understand these things are going on.
And we would be looking at them. We're like, is this really like stuff? And we always felt like there was a D that aligned with like something that was like uniquely American. It's like, this is due July 4th. Okay, like right. There was always something like that. So we were like, maybe that's part of the test. Like, how committed are you? Like, will you meet the deadline? But we went through all the stuff that was virtual, and then I would say 2 big things happened to like really help us win.
Yeah.
So first, David and then our next chair, Dan Hilferty, they came together, and one of the big questions about Philadelphia was about financial capacity, right? Like, we are the little city in between New York and Washington.
Yeah.
So there's like not a sense, there's almost like people don't realize how many big companies are here and how many great, businesses, small, medium, and large, are here that
Without a
always
doubt,
step up
for
for
sure.
these events, right? Like, so our business community, again, small, medium, large, they step up over and over again. And that was sort of this idea was like, well, how do you answer the question that FIFA doesn't want to ask, which is like, are you going to be able to get this?
Can y'all afford this?
Can you afford this? Can you support this? Right? Are people
Bring it on your W-2 and let me see what the city's doing now.
Have money.
Correct. That's right. That is correct. And so that was really like, we spent a lot of behind the scenes time
Yeah.
fundraising among the business community in the pandemic and saying like, look, if we don't win, you're off the hook, right?
Yeah.
But if we win,
I need you to commit
gotta
to
commit.
this number.
right,
Yeah.
you got to commit.
It's know the way you're checking and savings and kind of set up
Yeah.
situation.
Right,
like,
whatever, we're giving you runway, right?
You
Like,
take
can
Apple
start-
Pay, all that. All
We had it, and then we did it like fly away. Like, would you like to pay over 5 years? Because we still have 5 years. Like,
Got a
dude,
claw in it right here for you.
we did a lot of that, and yeah, we raised $41 million in pledges just from the business community.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
Shout out to the business community.
That's right.
Stepping up.
Absolutely. And I'm going to tell you, that is such a huge part of us winning, because FIFA even laughs about it to this day. So when we got September, we get our date, like, and FIFA does you get a 3-week notice.
Yeah.
It's like, we've been in this for a year and a half, and they're like, see you in 21 days.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's not like, hey, that's not going to work out for us. It's like, great, we'll see you on Wednesday.
Yeah, we'll see you there.
And our idea was like, look, they're coming in. We were the 8th of 9 cities in 10 days. Like, if you're FIFA and you're the 35-person delegation,
Yeah.
like, do you even know where you are on
Right.
day 8? Like, right? They had gone everywhere, and they were heading back to Miami after us, and that was the end. And so we knew we were going to have to do something that was going to make them like, whoa, like, we got to stand up and
Yeah.
take a look at this, because it would have been easy to just be like, we'll get there.
It's like speed dating. How do I
Yeah.
How do I separate myself? Right?
Put a tray of pina coladas on the table, and it's like, oh yeah, Miami.
Yay, right? And so we were like, how do we, and we were going into a spike, right? So again, we're now back into like everybody wearing masks.
I remember that.
Everybody,
Goodness.
and FIFA's like, everybody's got to be tested,
Mm.
right? Yeah, we're COVID testing everybody. Shout out to the Philadelphia Eagles who COVID tested us at NovaCare, the drive-through, to be able to go do that presentation, right? And how do you get everybody you need? And like, it's the wildest thing. And what we decided to do was just bring the party to the street, right? And so we called all the businesses that had stepped up, and they had just started to go back into office a little bit. They were working on,
Yeah.
we were like, all right, we need you to parade. Just come outside and clap for these people. Like,
Right.
come outside. There's going to be a bus. And we thought it would just be like a line of people. And what was so cool about it is that, like, everybody had a big idea. Like, First Trust Bank over at 16th and Market was like, we'll turn our signs on. Can you give us something? And East Market was like, yeah, we'll turn on our signs. And Wawa was awesome. They were still at 12th and 12th and Market, and they came out and they brought the mascots, and they had the one that they have, the goose. I have a mascot, right? And they had a drum line that came out, and Five Below did a balloon arch, and all of a sudden there was this like tour de force turnout by everybody who worked at SEPTA, everybody who worked at the Marriott, right? And Market Street just got lined with everybody cheering them.
Yeah.
And then we took it a step further, and we COVID tested 500 fans, and we had them at the stadium, and we created like a wall, like a tunnel of people, so that when they came, they got off the highway, and the Philly Fanatics got the like pulling the buses in, and
I love
Sloop's
that.
there, and Gritty's scaring everybody, and in his gritty way, and like, and there's the cheerleaders, and at the top of the steps is like Don Smolinski's and Jeffrey Lurie from the Eagles, and the mayor, and Dan Hilferty waiting to like greet these people. And like, they were 45 minutes late because they kept stopping the bus to take pictures. And then they were like overwhelmed by everybody cheering for them and chanting at them. Like, they were like, we want the cup. And we had banners, and everything was dressed. The Phillies put up a huge banner with our brand on it that said, showing our love for FIFA. Like, that kind of stuff was, we think of it as that's who we are. It was a huge differentiator.
Yeah. You did a show of force.
You did a show of
Yeah, it
force.
sounds amazing.
It was awesome. And I mean, it was just an unbelievable experience. And we knew we hit on something, like, and we knew it was different because then we brought them in and then we handed them, they always talk about the binder. When we told them and we raised $41 million, it was like, we are in. Like, think about being at like a poker table and being like, okay,
All in.
we are all in. And I think that for us was the turning point. I think we knew that we had cracked in through that top 10. I think that was where we were, and we just kept at it. And everything we did was about like just making it about Philly. Right. And like I said, we knew we got somewhere because we turned on, I don't even remember what station it was, but there was a national news and they do like moment of the day from around the country. And it was the bus tour right. And it was the aerial shot of all the people on Market Street Club and the talking about the way we welcomed FIFA. And what was the coolest thing is that when they did the next round of visits, everybody had fans. Nobody had fans before us, and then everybody had fans after us.
City of first.
First, that's right.
But now it really shines a light on just the collective camaraderie and the palpable energy that comes with these games. And that's just a glimpse into it, because we're talking years ago, and now fast forward to where we are now.
Yeah.
Meg, you brought up the national news, and one of my personal goals from of course we're a small but mighty team, but a wise person once told me, you haven't truly made it as a world-class city until when they're talking about weather on the national news, they mention you. And so usually when you watch the national news, like Al Roker or whoever, they're like DC, New York, maybe Charlotte, but then it's usually just Atlanta.
You're right.
Straight from, so like end of 2026, early 27. Say it's sunny in 72 or snowing with 3 miles as expected. That's one of the goals. But no, it just really gives us a chance to put Philly on a map in such a unique way. But I mean,
I think it was genius looking at it in hindsight. Like, you sold the passion of the city.
Yeah.
Because that's what the city has more of than Miami. Like you said, pina coladas. We got a beach.
Got some toaststones.
Bring that soccer ball down. But Philly, it's like you sell the
heart.
You sell that.
Yeah,
for Philly. That's
and it's like always the little stuff, right? Like like Philly, like we take pride in like getting do the little stuff really well.
Really well.
Like, and even down to like when they got on the plane, right, to go to Miami, like when they were greeted by a group that had made fresh hoagies, fresh filled cannolis, like getting on the plane, like they got like a box that was like, no, this is like our best stuff. Like we just got it, we just had it made, right? And it was great because when they came back, after we had been selected, and they came back the first time, the first thing they said was like, we want to get some cheesesteaks for the flight. I was like, we got that.
We'd like to return to Flavor Town if they lost.
Yeah, it was amazing. But I mean, it was such a cool moment. And then of course, like being selected, right? Like we had the watch party. We had a watch party you didn't know. Like, talk about rolling the dice and being all in. Like, nothing is as nerve-wracking. Like, nothing is as nerve-wracking as being in Love Park. And when you're like, okay, here we go. And, like, you're in the last minutes of it.
We're going to get it.
And Mayor Kenny was standing next to us. And when they announced Boston, he was like, oh, my God. He was like, are we going? Like, what's happening? And I was like, we're good. And then, like, we were next. But, you can see it. There's some really funny, like, social media clips and, like, videos that, like, people sent me where when they announced Boston, like the whole crowd like deflates. There's a guy who was like holding his head and they shake, and then there's like the eruption when they announced Philadelphia. And I mean, that's probably one of the happiest moments of my entire career.
Yeah.
Just because I felt so good for the city. And we needed that win. I mean, really, when you think 22, like there was a lot that had happened over those past couple of years. And it was really good to have something to look forward to and to say like, we got this.
This is probably going to be the most general, broad, but also vital question I asked you guys today. Why was it important that Philly be selected for the World Cup?
God, that's a great question. I mean, I think there's a lot of different answers to that, right?
Yeah.
And I think it depends on the lens, right, that you look at it through. For me, I think I'm a native of Philadelphia, born in the Northeast, and I love the city, and I've made it my home, and for me, I think it was imperative for Philadelphia to win because it just changes the narrative from a global perspective. Like, to be a FIFA World Cup host city it is bigger than being the hosting the convention is bigger than a papal visit. It is, I mean, the selection process is so hard.
Yes.
And and the commitment is so big to do it from everybody. And the fact that everybody came together, and again, it's what you said earlier, which is like Philly just when it matters, everybody really comes together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this is the one event that has the opportunity to change the trajectory of the city.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well said, Meg. So in America, you spell football with 2 O's.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere else in the world, you spell with a U.
Yeah.
And so as a young person, soccer was my introduction to organized sports. And I played up until the middle of middle school. I was good at it. I enjoyed it. And then as most young American boys and girls, you start to chase more traditional sports goals. So I started playing basketball and football. One of my biggest regrets. I always joke with my wife, I could have one name with an unnecessary accent.
Yeah.
And be living in Europe. And she's like, you'd be single, but congrats. But I mean, the reality is, like, it opens doors for so many people. And in addition to what it poured into me from a sports lens, also just like social development, sportsmanship, participation, learning how to lose and learning how to embracing wins, and learning from your losses. But it's also an avenue to success and an avenue to exposure. And so, of course, it's important to further cultivate the love and interest that young people have in the sport already, but almost more importantly, to establish that interest and that intrigue and that passion for the young Philadelphian that just isn't hip to all of the benefits that soccer can provide.
Yeah.
And so storytelling is a big part of our world, and recognizing that there are, endless programs of significant and grassroots size structure that are doing amazing work throughout the city and the region.
Yeah.
And so shining a light on the great things that they're doing. I was walking in Rittenhouse the other day for lunch and saw a guy teaching 4 kids some fundamentals. I walked up to him and I'm like, hey, tell me about what you're up to.
Yeah.
I was in Hunting Park a couple weeks ago at Lighthouse 1893 across from St. Chris's, and they have an amazing space, and they host youth and adult games. And so recognizing that regardless of where you are in the city, people have a passion for sports and specifically a passion for soccer.
Without
so, leveraging this unique opportunity to elevate the impact that soccer can have on communities, particularly those that haven't really been exposed to the benefits of the game, I think is really one of the most important parts of it.
I think that's a series of great thoughts that you shared. And because I actually had a question around that where it's like, what do you attribute to like that rise in appeal in popularity of, soccer in communities that once upon a time kind of like overlooked it. And now you're seeing it just continue to compound year after year after year. And it's just, a lot, the urban areas are leading the growth in, soccer right now.
It could be something as simple as like a fire kit that a certain team has that match your Jordans or match your Dunks. Yeah. Or it could be something more significant, like seeing someone like Mbappe that looks like you being the best in the entire world at a sport that's embraced across the globe, and saying like, like I could potentially be that person. I'm in my backyard, I'm in the alley, I'm wherever I am, and I'm playing around, but knowing that that's the ceiling, where in other spaces, like I realized pretty early on in high school that I wasn't going to be a Division I basketball or football player.
Right.
But you can be 5'10" and $190, and if you got some decent speed to you, you can be the greatest soccer player in the world.
That's what speed and agility. You can be the GOAT.
Male or female.
Yeah.
That's the other beautiful part about it too, is that it bridges the gap, regardless of gender, regardless of age. I'll give a quick shout out to our director of communications that is still an avid and successful soccer player to this day. And so, it's
And our CFO.
that is correct.
That's right.
Indeed. So, regardless of what your walk of life is, it's just such an appealing and immersive and all-encompassing experience. And it's the easiest thing to do. Like if you have it doesn't even need to be a soccer ball. If you have a soccer ball, basketball, kickball, whatever, you get those 2 trash cans on the end, 2 cones,
Right.
2 mismatched pieces that create a goal. you got yourself a little pitch.
Yeah, there's way less
can-
barriers to entry to playing the game than
Yeah.
it is in like, certain other sports. Like think of from the standpoint of like, you got a 10-year-old, he wants to get involved in baseball, you got to buy cleats, you pay for uniforms, pay team dues, bats, helmets, like all there's a certain amount of financial commitment that you have to make that doesn't necessarily exist just getting started on an entry level with soccer.
For sure. And with that being said, that is something that we recognize as important from a legacy standpoint to pour into the Philadelphia as a city and as a region, because there is still an equity issue in play where it is more easily accessible, but there are still barriers to access and success due to, financial restrictions, transportation issues. And so one of the things that we want to do in addition to pouring into Lemon Hill is growing the game.
Yeah.
And through a partnership with the U.S. Soccer Foundation, Eastern Pennsylvania Youth Soccer Association, and PA West, we're going to be doing a number of different legacy. We're going to do a legacy endowment. We're going to do, a program where we build mini pitches throughout the region. And this is a Commonwealth effort. So in addition to Philadelphia, throughout Pennsylvania, but also recognizing that something like having adequate and a good volume of coaches to be able to teach the rising generation of players, we really want to be very thoughtful and strategic in our approach to drive an impact long term.
Yeah, I think one thing that's changed the like you said, the uprise of soccer and everything, I think that soccer finally got pop culture superstars in the last couple of years. Well, in the last decade or so. But like you look back in the day, like Pele and all of them were amazing, but they weren't pop culture icons. But like Cristiano Ronaldo, you got Mbappe, you got Messi from Argentina. You got these people, even back when like Mia Hamm and them went on their run with the Olympic team.
Huge,
we've seen that to where now people care more about them off the field. Just as like, basketball did it with Michael Jordan, baseball
people
did it
are
with Mark
invested
McGuire.
in the person.
And I think just over the last 10 to 15 years, we've seen just this rise of like the superstardom around these soccer players, where I was down at Chester when Messi came here with Miami. It was insane. Now, like you would have thought Michael Jackson was going like that's people were in the streets going crazy. Like, and I was like, what's happening? They was like, Messi's here tonight. And I'm like, oh my hang on. And that was the energy, like, oh, Messi's coming with Miami. You gotta be here for that. And just knowing that that's like that in all these cities and all these places. So it's like, now you're at the precipice of it, because Messi don't got much longer, neither do Cristiano Ronaldo, but now you got Mbappe, who's like the new star. Like you said, he looks like us and he's the new young guy, and he ended up in the final last time. It's like, all right, like now you got, like, to your point, there are going to be several moments throughout this World Cup run that are going to be like lifelong, you know what I mean? So
absolutely.
Well, and you mentioned Chester, and so like I want to take just a quick second, because I do think like the such credit in this region, right? I mean, soccer has always been, I think, a strong culture in our region. I mean, to the point of Lighthouse, 8th History is a perfect example of that. But what the Union have built in Chester,
super impressive.
It's beautiful too.
It's a great stadium. It's a great fan culture. They continue to invest. I mean, the Wisfis complex, it's for a $55 million complex down there that's for allowing youth soccer to have more places to play. I mean, I think what their ownership group, Tim McDermott, Dave DeBuscher, that team down there had a vision, right? And I think they've played such an important role in not just in the growth of soccer, in this region, but I think, I would be remiss if I didn't say like what them selling out all of their matches is a huge selling point when you say to FIFA, our MLS team is a sellout every time at 21,000 in Chester, right?
Yeah,
like
not even in for like right outside.
Exactly, and I think that's like a really like I think that culture, the Sons of Ben, all of the things that they've built down there.
Yeah,
I mean they've had competitive teams over the last several years, which has only made it great. And what's even, I think, cooler, I mean, the team is cool, and we have Alejandro Bedoya, who's one of the captains, is one of our honorary co-chairs. He has been unbelievable in terms of helping us in every way, shape, and form. I mean, he's been amazing. So thank you to him, and thank you to the Union. But what the other thing the Union have done that's really cool is their academy, right? That youth program it's the European model.
Yeah.
What they're doing is absolutely incredible. And when you look at the number, it's 60 players that went to U.S. men's national team training camp, right? 11 of them have ties to the union.
That's great.
Is that 11 of
That's
them
great.
have ties to the union, right? And this U.S. men's national team that'll play in 26, it's going to be really interesting to see what the, if you will, the Philadelphia flavor is to that. Whether it's because it's the Aronsons, whether there's a local players,
Right.
obviously Pulisic, right?
Yeah,
He's playing at
Pulisic is-
AC Milan. I mean, he's from Hershey.
Right.
He's a hometown.
Yeah,
He's from Pennsylvania. So, I mean, that's the part where like there could have a real flavor that has that impact. And I think that's even going to get people more excited and interested.
Yeah, you're definitely seeing it more and more amongst the children, like you said. Like you'll ride down the street, you'll see soccer games going on in the field, soccer games going on. And back in the day, it wasn't really like that. You know, I played soccer in elementary school. I was a goalie, and I was the best goalie in the league. I just stood there. You know what I'm saying? And you know, people come over and see my soccer wars in my dad's house. I'm like, you play soccer? It's like me in front of a net. Just nothing happens.
Lights out.
Lights out. You know what I'm saying? But it's like when you go to like Brazil,
Oh yeah.
it just you see soccer the way you see like street basketball
Exactly.
here. Like it's just, you know, but over the years you've seen the rise where I see a lot more youth leagues, a lot people I know who got kids. Yeah, my son got soccer this week.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, my daughter got soccer. That it's just been on a constant uprise. And I think to your point, seeing it on this global level, because I'm telling you, it's something about them World Cup games. They're infectious. That horn going, and it's insane. So seeing it in cities where soccer isn't the dominant sport of choice, in a city like a Houston, Philadelphia, what else is on there? Boston. Like seeing these cities that are known for these, you know, the Celtics, the Lakers, the Eagles, all these things, and now you're gonna see global soccer done. It's gonna be game changing.
And I think it's a big kudos to MLS, the way that they've strategically grown and also embedded themselves in the communities of these cities that they're in order to help the growth of soccer over the last, 20 some odd years, where that league kind of goes from being like an afterthought to now you're attracting these big, huge stars. And it, kind of starts with David Beckham once upon a time. And then that creates the Messi move later on. And then you see this explosion, around MLS, where now international stars are really considering it as a viable option and bringing more attention to, the game. And that infrastructure kind of, you look at it and you're like, hey, this kind of, there's a lot of familiar cities that in relation to, MLS, as far as this United 2026 bid that leads to, the World Cup happening.
Absolutely. I mean, MLS is the legacy of the 94 World Cup, right?
Yeah.
Like that's right. So that's always a question when people say, like, what's the legacy? You have to remember that, like, the first legacy of hosting World Cup in the U.S. when it was only 9 cities was at Major League Soccer.
Yeah.
Right. And so to see how much that's right.
Yeah.
Like that was 96. That launched in 96. Like that's an incredible, that's an incredible arc. And like that growth trajectory is, I mean, it is rising. I mean, it just keeps growing. And, you see the growth at both the women's game too. But I mean, what MLS is putting together and what they've, with Don Garber and their team, like you're right, they've been super strategic.
Yeah.
And Messi coming is absolutely game changing. Like when you think about a Super Bowl ad for Frito-Lay that has Messi in it, and they're running it during the Super Bowl, like we have crossed the Rubicon here. That's a major moment. And I think we're going to see a lot of that, coming forward. And I think to your point, like Mbappe, and I always say, to remind people that the best thing that happened, and I think to get people to really understand how amazing, like you said, you remember being at the Ritz being like, oh, they're going to PKs. This is unbelievable.
I remember that. That was nuts.
The lead-in, they preempted Fox's NFL pregame show because it was in the morning and it went late. So all these people who traditionally wouldn't have tuned in for the most exciting part of the game. And I remember following it on Twitter or X, whatever your preference is, but following it, and people who are traditional NFL stalwarts being like, oh my God, this is incredible. This is unbelievable.
It's definitely anxiety inducing.
Yeah,
Without a doubt.
totally. But it was really cool to see that
Yeah.
quickly the sport kind of captured that like magic
Yeah, for sure.
for people that didn't know.
Yeah, and I think you can't create magic. It just has to happen. You know, like to that. What's the legacy? It's like we don't know what's gonna happen.
True.
But you know, we can go back over time and look at countless. You look at the you just mentioned the women's game. Look at what the women's Olympic team did, and then the next year the WNBA starts.
Yeah.
You see where that's at. So you really don't know where legacy is gonna end up. You just know that if I'm here and I have the ability to do this, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
And you put your best foot forward and, you know, hope it all works out. So I'm actually anticipating seeing it, just knowing what I know from seeing it in these different places it's been, seeing that energy in Philadelphia, Houston, Dallas. It's going to be insane.
Yeah, and we envision it being so organic too. On any given day, and we're expecting 500 to 700,000 visitors in the summer of 2026,
Right.
just for the games, and that's in addition to all the other stuff that's going on. And so you're the average Philadelphian. You step outside, and there's a parade, this unplanned parade that just started on your block, and it's headed south, headed north, headed whichever direction. And you're like, oh, like I got 15 minutes, 20 minutes. I'm gonna hop in on this.
Join the parade.
Yeah.
Join the train.
20 minutes later, I'm canceling my plans, and I'm gonna just see where this takes me. And I think there's gonna be so many different iterations of that, like throughout the time that the games are taking place in general, but particularly in Philadelphia. There will be the planned activities, but there will also be so many just pop-ups, naturally developing experiences that are curated by an organization, a soccer enthusiast. Like, I think, just to share your sentiment, we can predict some elements of the experience, but there will also be so many amazing
just has to
planned activities.
Yeah. I think that's the exciting part.
Yeah,
not
yeah,
knowing.
yeah,
Like what will happen, right? And I think about that all the time. Like,
Yeah.
what will be the magic moment, right? Because to your point, it happens, right? You have to put everything in place to allow it to happen and to create the opportunity for it, but you don't make it, right? It comes organically.
Absolutely.
It comes naturally. And I think that's the part with Philly. I think there's that opportunity for so much of that to happen.
Yeah.
And I think that's so rooted in our neighborhood
Yeah.
and in how people are going to kind of activate around this.
Yeah.
And I think that's really an incredible, like, that for me is the incredibly exciting part. Like, what's the moment where everybody's going to reshare, this video is going to completely go viral because it's just the most like incredible moment, right? And it could only happen here.
Yeah.
Right.
Will they have to add anything to the link?
And so the link had to do a little bit of construction around the corners so that we meet the FIFA requirements for the.
Yeah, because I know it's always stuff that goes on with these different stadiums.
But we don't have to add anything in addition. Just that we will be at 62,000 capacity for FIFA.
Yeah. I just got to say, it is so impressive the way that these stadiums reimagine their space on any given day. On Saturday, I took my oldest to Monster Jam. Which, if you haven't been, I highly recommend.
Haven't been in a long time.
It's enjoyable for adults, at least for kids, maybe even a little more so. But just, I was asking one of the Eagles members of Eagles leadership, I was like, what is the pre and post op for this sort of experience? And they're like, you got 30 minutes to go through it, because it's so significant. We have big dirt mounds, like they clearly carved out space that isn't usually the way it is, but it's just, it goes to show just the experience and creativity of the team members that work at these respective stadiums and how they can just customize the environment based on whatever the respective event is.
Yeah, absolute elite groundskeeping.
My
that are
goodness.
able to turn that stuff over to what they do.
All the ways. We talked a lot about the business community. I'm winning the bid. The ace for us was that stadium.
Yeah.
Lincoln Financial Field is an elite stadium.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think, to the point about the groundskeeping, like Tony Leonard, the guru of grass, Norman Voss Schulte, like, what great name, better, like, he's amazing. He had sustainability for them and guest experience, right? So, like, when you think about stuff that the Eagles did so far ahead,
without a doubt,
like the things that stadiums are having to go through in other cities, like the Eagles they did those renovations in 19. they were way ahead of the curve. Irrigation systems, like everything. And like,
Yeah.
that's, I think, just, hat tip to that organization. And Frank Gemeni is their chief operating officer for really looking at like how to keep that venue just as state of the art as possible so that anybody coming in goes, this is a great stadium.
Yeah, I watched a thing on YouTube one day where it was talking about the difference between a soccer field, a baseball field, and a football field, and it's literally like it's completely different grass, completely different water, it's so different
Really?
because your feet plant different ways depending on what you're running and what you're doing. It's crazy. It's not just here. We just gonna pull up, throw the ball out there. Like it's nothing like.
And that's how injuries happen. And historically, because the Eagles really took care of the field and made that like a whole, like a data science thing of how they, how they operated. You see Saquon coming here and just zipping.
He's
up
doing
and-
pirouettes
He's just
over players.
He's doing stuff even as a great player, he's doing stuff you've never seen him do because of the combination of that, and then like the equipment team managers and all of that stuff, making sure that they have the right equipment that matches the high level and the quality of what the field is.
Oh yeah, no, Meg's so right. I was about to use a baseball analogy to reference it, but we're up 1-0 with having the link as our host stadium for the games.
And that's
The link is ranked number 3 in NFL fields. Number 1 is Seattle, number 2 is Lambeau, and the Eagles' link is number 3.
There you go.
As far as
Not
NFL
bad at
field
all.
bargain,
That's good company.
Top 3.
I'll take that, absolutely. And I think that's the other part that's really cool is that like there will be that stadium experience, but it is also going to feel like the Super Bowl experience outside the link as well. Right. So when you think about the activation piece, right, and that's one of the reasons I kind of love the way this set up is like the stadium complex is going to be activated, right, and then Lemon Hill. And so when you think about that in terms of the city and balancing that the experiences out, and then recognizing that you've got the historic district, down that will be, there's all these different places for people to be.
Absolutely.
And I think that's going to that point of the magic. I think that's what's going to make it is that there are going to be people that are going to be like, I saw the Liberty Bell. I went to FanFest, right? Like,
there's going to be people setting up big screens on Main Street. The whole city is going to do this.
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt. As we should. Yeah. Right? As we should, because like that's the kind of thing where it's like I think, there's going to be the stories that we just don't know yet. And like, there's going to be the team that makes a magical run and maybe they're coming through Philly and, or maybe, it's like, there's a player that everybody's just kind of fallen in love with. Right. And is, kind of capturing the imagination. Right. Like all of that is what we don't know yet. And like, that's for me, it's like, oh man, that's when people say like, what's exciting? It's like all of that.
And it'll be captured in so many different lenses too. We have, again, such diversity throughout the city. So when you talk about magical moments, I absolutely envision it being plural. And so whether it's in the African and Caribbean community, in the Asian American Pacific Islander community, in the Hispanic community, in the LGBTQ plus community, I mean, we're talking about all of these different spaces where there is such a passion for soccer. And so, it will truly be a welcoming experience for all. And that's something that we're really excited about too.
Yeah, sounds like it. Jonathan, if you can, talk to us about the intersection of community, sports, and the economic development part as we bring all of these different entities together to execute this, historic event.
Absolutely. So I'd kind of teased by the numbers piece of this, but we ran a study, as we embarked on this journey. And so you have 500 to 700,000 guests expected next summer.
Yeah.
A $770 million economic impact expected from the games. Over 6,600 new jobs created from the games.
Wow.
$50 million in tax revenue from the games, 50 million of which will go directly back to Philadelphia. But then there's also the business opportunities for Philadelphia and Pennsylvania-based firms. So again, just for clarification's sake, Philadelphia Soccer 2026 is a 501c3 host committee. There's 16 of us across North America. And so FIFA will have their responsibilities when it comes to different vendors that they work with, and then we will have ours as well. Ours will be far more finite, admittedly, but whenever and wherever possible, we're looking to engage with not only diverse businesses but also businesses that are from Philadelphia or Pennsylvania. And to that point, we definitely track the way in which we do business. And so in the third and fourth quarter in early 2025, we've had 41% minority or women business enterprise spend for our different business needs, as well as 59% of businesses hailing from Pennsylvania, 41% of which are from Philadelphia County. And so, we're certainly encouraged by those statistics, but absolutely not satisfied. So continuing the momentum with onboarding an MBE for our safety and security, as well as an WBE for our procurement process. We want to make sure that we are engaging with businesses that reflect the diversity of our city and also have built their brand and their success within the city or the Commonwealth. And so we put out an events RFP recently. We have an operations RFP that's actually out right now. And we envision additional RFPs coming out in the future, but really it'll be those smaller scale opportunities that'll present themselves. I mentioned storytelling.
Right.
I envision that being a significant part of our content equation, as well as, within FanFest or outside of FanFest. We're pushing FIFA really hard to make sure that there is a Philadelphia vendor village component, so small and diverse businesses can activate within or around the confines of FanFest and engage with customers from around the world, exposure that they would never really have otherwise.
Sort of like a Christmas village.
Exactly.
Love Park.
Exactly. Remember at MIA when they had that strip club for nonprofits? Yeah, so we definitely want to do that. And then we have the World Cup games coming in 2026. We have 8 games this summer for Club World Cup. Now, we are not involved in official capacity with them, but of course, through natural overlap and branding, we're going to, support it. And so we're going to be activating in communities throughout the city with watch parties and different events. And, whenever and wherever possible, we're also going to activate the local flavor, whether it's through live music, food and beverage, videography and photography, just to make sure that as many small and diverse businesses can feel like they had legit skin in the game for all the amazing things that are happening. And then just more call to action is for all of the businesses that are out there, like, get your ducks in a row, because there are going to be an unprecedented amount of people coming to this city. So whether it's pop-up shops or, working with the great partners we have at PHL, CVB, and the Visit Philly, et cetera, to make sure that there's alignment and collaboration in all of the different lists. When I'm looking for a brunch spot or if I'm looking for a place to grab a drink, I Google, and the first 3 links are like top 20, whatever, go to this places. And so, the way that we can share that information, but to just be prepared for the influx and volume of visitors and guests that are going to come to the city.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because it's going to be amazing. And so, yeah.
Sounds like it's something really cool that you guys did. You ran a art contest. For the poster, and it ended up being a statewide design contest. More than 400 artists from across Pennsylvania submitted their portfolios to be considered, and the one that was selected is really, really cool. Can you talk to us about it? And we'll make sure we show it on the screen and all of that as we on this part. Can you talk to us about like the idea to run the contest, and then kind of like how the winner was selected?
Yeah, so we really wanted to make sure that when this opportunity came up around the official host city poster, we wanted to make sure that it was something that could be opened up, and especially to the art community. Arts and culture and sports oftentimes find an intersection, right? And so this seemed like a really awesome way for that to come to fruition. And so I would say one of the things that our team, I think, did a great job of is recognizing that we needed the guidance of the arts and culture community across the Commonwealth to help us to guide the building of this contest. I think had we done it on our own, right?
Might have looked a little different.
I'm saying that we probably wouldn't have done it in as probably as strategic a way, as organized a way, and I think as equitable a way as we did. I think that for us was real, and the equity piece was really important. One of the cool things that I think about the selection of that poster is that it was a truly blind judging panel, right? So when we had 400 artists that put forward their portfolios, and then there was a group that came together to select the top 10, and then we commissioned those artists to develop a portfolio with a submission. And then we brought in a judging panel that was the from arts and culture, right? It was led by Governor Shapiro's, the First Lady, Lori Shapiro, helped. But we brought in people who have expertise actually looking at art and artists
Right.
from across the Commonwealth. And we didn't give them the names. We didn't tell them where they were from. We just said, like, look at these 10. And
Do you
pick,
like? Yeah.
and what do you like? And we gave our top 3 to FIFA, and then FIFA ultimately made their recommendation on the selection. I think from that perspective, one, we were able to do it in a way that made sure that artists were compensated for the time and the work that they were given, because a lot of times that doesn't happen
Yes.
in these types of situations. So the arts and culture community was really helpful in helping us to structure that
Yeah.
in a way that allowed for that compensation to happen.
Right.
It also, I think, helped us to come forward and really articulate what we were looking for in this submission.
Yes.
And so what was ultimately selected was actually an artist from Pittsburgh, Nick McClintock, who put forth as his poster. And what I loved about it was, this is my personal, and I think there were a lot of different versions and feedback and whatever, but is it captures so many nuances of Philadelphia in the design, which I think makes it so cool.
Yeah.
And when you see it with all of the other host city posters, I think it stands out. I think it looks really cool. And shout out to our internal team for coming up with an absolutely really cool, funky way to unveil it at the flower show.
Yeah.
Which we love, because the New York Times just said that it was the coolest and most unhinged unveil. And I was like, yes, I will take that, New York Times. Thank you.
Yeah.
But like, that's cool. And I said, we've gotten really good feedback, not just on our poster, but also on our Sonic ID, which of course was done by DJ Jesse Jeff.
Yeah.
I mean, really can't go wrong there. And
Go wrong.
we've received A+ markings as in the rankings among all the other hosts.
I mean, no bias, but ours is definitely the best.
Yeah.
I mean,
Definitely the best.
Yeah.
Like, no doubt. I mean, it captures this, like, when you think about the sound, like what, like, and I think that was the coolest thing to hear Jeff talk about in all the interviews when we launched it, was like, he, like, talk about understanding the assignment.
Yeah.
Right. I know
No,
2.5
Jeff's amazing.
minutes that sounds like capture Philadelphia in a sound and pay some homage to the great music of Philadelphia. And it's
It's like, oh, give me 15 minutes. I got it.
basically, yes.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, and we're done.
And he was just so gracious with his talent and his time.
Yeah.
Throughout the process, Meg mentioned the interviews that we did. He spent the whole day with us.
Yeah.
You know, just getting to know one another. He's just such a pleasant and down to earth individual. And at the same time, he's a worldwide music icon.
Absolutely.
And so, just again, to have that as another representative, him as another representative and reflection of how great the creative community is in Philadelphia, just like another home run. And that flower show, the floral rendition, is downstairs. So if you didn't see it on the walk-in, we'll be sure to point it
All
out.
right, we'll check that out. Something else in the art space that you guys also did, the Love of the Game, the digital mosaic.
Yes.
I thought was really, really dope. And that's by Philadelphia artist
Niall
Livingston. Symbolizes the passion of the game of soccer felt throughout the Philadelphia region. And that's a really, really cool digital image that he put together also.
Yeah, so she did an amazing job. And we worked with Mural Arts Philadelphia on that. And again, a perfect example of how to bring something that is so unique to Philadelphia to life during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Because we did that as part of our bid efforts, right? It was an opportunity for people, they could upload their photographs and it fed into this design. Niall had done an incredible digital mural called Philly Rising, and we kind of used that as the inspiration. But yeah, we loved, I mean, that was a great project. And, Mural Arts has done, talk about really capturing, kind of the feel of Philadelphia. I mean, it's more than, the mural capital of the world here, and some of the incredible work that's done, whether, that Jane Golden has led now, I mean, almost close to 50 years, but, you're talking about, the work they're doing in restorative justice, Color Me Back. There's just so many ways in which Mural Arts is a part of that, and the nurturing of, I think, of really diverse artists with diverse viewpoints and different creative lenses. And Niall's a perfect example.
Yes, definitely.
Right? I mean, she has just been an awesome, she's an awesome artist and has her own agency and creative repute, and, but that was such a home run when we put it up on the links. The big screen, when you see something that big on, on the Jumbotron, it's like, oh, all right, that's, it's impressive.
Without a doubt. What are some key dates that people need to be aware of and looking out for and putting some calendar alerts in and booking travel and all of that around Philly soccer and FIFA World Cup 2026?
Well, I wish I had exact dates for you.
Okay.
Um,
Some rough estimates will do.
We'll do some
start
rough
there.
estimates.
Yeah.
So we anticipate that tickets will go, individual game tickets, match tickets will go on sale sometime in the fall.
Okay.
25. So if you are interested in tickets or want to get on the notification list, it's FIFA.org/tickets.
Yeah, I saw
you gotta,
that.
You gotta,
Saw that
you
last
gotta
night.
have that.
Yep.
Too many notifications.
Yes,
Turn the notifications on, because the host committee actually doesn't have anything to do with
all
ticketing. It's
through
all
FIFA.
through FIFA.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm always, shouting out that important URL.
FIFA's powerful. They have a Congress. I'm reading them like FIFA Congress.
Oh, yeah.
This is
Oh,
serious.
yeah, for sure.
Governing body, and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
It's definitely it's big time.
Yeah.
So we the individual match tickets probably in the fall.
Fall 25.
The draw is December of 25.
Yeah.
We don't have a date yet or a location, but that's when we'll know which teams are coming to
Right.
Philly, which I think will then help us to start planning, more appropriately for what
Yes.
that fan experience
Right.
is going to feel like, right? Right now there's a universe of teams, and then we've got to see who's actually coming.
Right.
So that'll be important. I think that we'll get a lot more information in terms of major dates from FIFA probably after the draw,
Okay.
right? Because that's also when we'll find out if Subaru Park will be used as a potential team base camp, which might find one of the national teams like using Subaru as its home base for 3
Oh, wow.
or 4 weeks in advance of the tournament, which
Yeah.
is really cool.
Yeah.
And then for us, our Philadelphia soccer dates, so June 11th is 1 year out from the World Cup starting, which is wild, right?
Yeah.
As someone who has been part of this since 2019, and shout out to Allison Grove, who has been part of that journey since then too. We're the longest tenured. Emily Malmstrom joined us in 20. So that's, and then obviously the CVB team has been on it with the city since 17.
Yeah.
But that 1 year out mark is pretty big, right?
Yes,
It's like
yes.
this moment where you're like, all right, like
It's happening.
this is happening,
Yeah.
right? And I
Becomes
think
tangible at that point.
exactly, and you start to really count down, and things start to really come to fruition. So we've got some fun things that are going to be planned for that week. So stay tuned. We'll make sure
Yes.
you guys are part of that. And then
They got you on
Yeah,
camera.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
That's a verbal contract.
that's right.
Look at this, Yana. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
We'll plan some fun things. And then we also 100 days out is kind of that big moment.
Yeah, yeah.
All in between, there'll be a mascot unveil by FIFA. There'll be the ball launch by FIFA.
Yeah.
So there's these kind of big moments. We expect the World Cup trophy will come to Philadelphia at some point next spring, which will be a cool moment, as a courtesy of Coca-Cola. So we thank them for it. And there's a lot of different stuff that's going to start happening. And I think we're excited to kind of make sure that this 1 year out is kind of the marker of like when things start to turn on. We've got some really cool activations, some ideas. We're having a huge block party on June 22nd down at the stadium complex. It's a countdown to 26, so it's through Welcome America. And it's in partnership with the Philadelphia Phillies and us as a countdown to all the big things that are happening in 26, right? So
Yeah.
we're doing it. It's really cool. There's a Club World Cup match at noon that Sunday, and we're hosting this block party between 2 and 6:30, and then the Phillies play at 7. So it's going to be a fun, So it'll be a fun day down at the stadium complex. Some soccer activations, baseball activations, some entertainment, food and beverage.
Yeah, for just kind of hearing you talk about it, it kind of seems like that moment is like the whole time, going back to 19 when you joined the team, you guys have been pushing this big rock up the hill, and now it's like, all right, letting it go down. It's like we got all the momentum.
Yep.
We're gonna let it go down
Down.
and knock this thing out in 2026.
Absolutely. And there's so much to be excited about, and there's going to be so many different moments along the way.
Yeah.
So I think that for us is where I think everybody's going to start feeling it.
Yeah.
I will say a lesson, when we worked on the Pope's visit together, right? That was like, we only had 14 months to put that all together. And when you think about that, there was such an excitement and enthusiasm, especially when it was like Pope Francis and he was coming and he was like on the cover of Rolling Stone and people were like, yeah.
Big dog Pope.
Right. He's coming up.
Big dog.
It was. And like everything we did with him, it was like wild. And it was so cool to see some of the organic stuff that happened that ends up like coming out. And so I think that's the other part that we'll integrate in as we start to hear that there's cool stuff happening. We are as much about the planning as we are about being an amplification tool, right? For what people are doing in community, in their neighborhoods, with their soccer clubs. Like, we're here to help tell those stories because nobody does it better. Right. We are again. And I think there's part of it that, yes, we are the planning committee, but we are also the biggest mouthpiece, the big bullhorn for this, for everything that's going to be happening and everything that's great and big, small, medium size, whatever it is, to be able to say, like, this is cool. And, want to make sure that we're giving a lot of love to all the soccer fans across the region who we know are very excited about this coming.
And anybody that's that's on the fence also or unsure, come be a part of FanFest. Be a part of the experience, and it may change your outlook on on how beautiful this game is.
No question.
And how infectious it is.
Yeah, I feel like the themes throughout our conversation has been collaboration and community.
Yeah,
and so I definitely want to give a shout out to our colleagues that aren't participating in this conversation. Again, we were a small but mighty team, but we're all, I can feel like I can speak for them. We're all so proud to be a part of this amazing journey. But it wouldn't be possible without the village of public and private partners, higher education, nonprofit. The list truly goes on. And this is from a local, state, and federal level to pull off something of this magnitude. We're talking about the Philadelphia International and Northeast airports. We're talking about SEPTA. We're talking about all of the first responders. We're talking about the city, who is such a valuable and appreciated partner throughout this process. And then, of course, we mentioned all of the different amazing soccer programs that are going on. Just, the average young person or adult or seasoned citizen that, is going to embrace this experience to the fullest. We talked about moments. We envision it happening. It'll happen in Center City. It'll happen in West Philly. It'll happen in Southeast. It'll happen Southwest, and the list goes on. But just the community that is present, has been present, and will continue to be, leading up to this moment, and as we continue to move forward and forge ahead. Just a collective appreciation, but also that excitement that just encompasses everything that we're doing. It truly takes a village to make all this happen.
I would definitely say the one other point I would just add is that if you're looking to kind of like get up to speed on like what's happening or want to learn more, like a lot of the work that we're going to do over the next year through our social media channels is going to be around kind of soccer 101. Like, what do you need to know, right? Like, we don't want I don't know the game, so I don't want to be part. Like that can't be the barrier. Right. So we want to take those steps to make sure that people who want to engage and want to be part of it, we have those tools available so that people can get up to speed, right? Like on whether it's soccer 101, whether it's ticketing 101, whether it's going to be, know before you go, how to access the, FIFA Fan Festival. What are all the different ways, that we want to be able to communicate. Our social media channels will be a really critical component of that. It's also where you'll see a lot of the cool stuff, and we'll probably be like ranking kits and other things as, and do it right. I mean, most importantly, like what sneakers am I wearing, right? And what kicks, what Adidas, and what kits are we?
Shout out to Three Stripes.
That's right, exactly. But those are that's the other part, like for people who are looking to kind of maybe engage or dip their toe in,
right.
Like we get that, we play that role too, right.
Yeah.
So,
shout out all of your social media channels and all of that, so people know where to go, and the website. No, beautiful website, by the way.
Thank you.
Beautiful website.
Thank you. Philly FWC26.com. And our social media channels are FWC Philly. If you just type in FIFA World Cup Philadelphia,
it'll populate everything.
Yes, we had to. I have to tell you, it's been funny because I should know them off the top of my head. And I will tell you, we've had to change them a couple times because when we moved from candidate city to like the interim host city, and then when we did the brand rollout, so I sometimes go to say what we were like in 2022, and I'm like, oh, that was it. We updated that.
Yeah.
So anyway, but yeah, just if you just check
Instagram right now, FWC26 Philly.
Yeah. Instagram, X, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook. all the channels.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Amazing conversation. Thank you guys so much for the time and for inviting us in and
absolutely.
treating us like family and including us in this whole
Yeah, I want to be
process.
involved in it. I'm amped up, man.
All right, that's important.
Mission
Good.
accomplished.
Done.
No, because I tell you, I like World Cup soccer, and I've just always been a fan of it. So to know that it's coming here and it's going to be that same energy in and around the city that I know, like the back of my head, is just like, yeah, you know what I mean? For sure.
We need all of TRP Nation, Urban Philly, any skeptics, anybody come be a part of this, this big, massive, beautiful celebration of not just soccer, but also our city. 250th anniversary of the city of Philadelphia. It's like it's gonna be crazy.
There's a lot more to come. So for everybody that that is tuning in, like we'll make sure that you guys stay close.
Yes,
Those big previews, all the stuff. Like we got to make sure you get the word out, and we're really appreciative of you coming here.
Without a doubt.
Truly.
Yeah.
Anything else that we need to share before we wrap this thing up? Is there any final thoughts, burning thoughts or whatever? Anything that we might have jumped over? I tried to be as comprehensive.
Very comprehensive.
We had a thorough convo.
It was very, very thorough. I'm just I think we covered it, and I think you just captured it really well. Like be part of it.
Yeah.
Like that's
it's for everybody.
It's for everybody. And soccer is the world game. Right? And so it is for everybody.
Yeah.
And it's really a way, and I think whether your team in Philadelphia is Eagles, Union, Sixers, Flyers, Phillies, like think about why you love those teams. And just recognize that what we're doing is we're hosting, we are the hosts.
Yeah.
Yes.
The welcoming committee, if you will, for maybe 6 to 8 to 10 nations.
Yes.
And their fans who love their team the way we love ours. And I think if you use that as the baseline for connection, like it's it's hard not to be excited about that.
Like, short and sweet, from I referenced it earlier. This is an embrace moment, not an escape moment. And so we want people to fully take hold of what is, headed our way, and just enjoy the moment, be a part of it. And however that looks, there'll be endless opportunities to be a participant in it. So, just embrace all the wonderful things that are to come.
I'm going to steal that line. That's a good one.
You got it.
I will credit you. You will get your attribution.
Makes a dream work.
With that being said, I think this wraps up a beautiful conversation and the start to many more, and seeing us together and working together and stuff like that as we move toward this big monumental occasion that we got going on next year. So with that being said, we are signing out now. For Chad, Matthew, Meg, Jonathan, the realest podcast ever, Philadelphia Soccer 2026. Thank you.
We out.